Hi, this is Hank Hanegraaff, president of the Christian Research Institute and host of the Bible Answer Man broadcast with another Hank Unplugged short. I just spent several weeks meditating on the Sermon on the Mount. I do so when I walk in the morning. I spend some time in prayer and some time memorizing, and again, my focus has been on the Sermon on the Mount. And if you memorize this sermon, it's one of the greatest sermons obviously ever preached in the history of the human race. It was preached by Jesus on the Mount of Beatitudes. And when you meditate on those words, they're transformational. In this sermon, Jesus famously asked, which of you, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone, or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? And I thought of that as I was reading an article just today, an article titled Of Smartphones and Snakes, an article by Grazie Christie. And she begins with that very question, which of you, if his son asks for a fish, will give you a snake? Grazie says that every time she sees a little hand holding a smartphone, when she sees childish eyes mesmerized by the screen, she imagines the phone being a snake. Why? Because in the embryonic stages of their development, we've handed impressionable children over to the greed of tech companies who lure them into rabbit holes filled with coarse sexuality. I would add transgender traps and drug devastations. Imagine this, 12 and 13-year-olds, even younger, being groomed for radical hormonal treatments and for devastating surgical alterations. Of course, the bottom line for the tech giants is very promising. The top and bottom surgeries, however, the woke ideologies, the cultural confusion has been patently devastating. And of course, this is not just a problem for children. Older tech addicts fare little better. Our overstimulated constitutions are increasingly devoid of critical thinking. We've substituted quick answers for critical thought. Information substituted for reflection and for true wisdom. Wisdom, of course, being the application of knowledge. Examples of the herd mentality are myriad. They're exemplified, for example, by the decoupling of sex and gender. Gender theorists suppose that biological sex has little or nothing to do with whether you're male or female. Feelings are now paramount. The interconnectedness between our physical bodies and our metaphysical minds seems severed as in Gnosticism. Worse still is the cult of my truth, an incoherent, thoughtless, reflection-free elixir that has brought an incoherent and previously inconceivable malady to the woke West. Well, the solutions are obviously not found in more screen time. Perhaps they reside more properly in more scripture time. Meditating, mining, memorizing the wisdom of Scripture for all its substantial worth. You might even want to start with reading a chapter a day in the book of Proverbs. I've done that for years. And it is not only stimulating, but it is beneficial. Trade some of your screen time for Scripture time. So many of us talk about how the Bible is foundational to our lives. But how many of us are actually going beyond the holding of Scripture to making the Scriptures part and parcel of the warp and woof of our very beings. Thanks for tuning in.